Certainly. Thank you very much. And Mr. Husick's House of Representatives book, for some reason, it's taken second place. In multiple copies. So, yeah. Can I start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and in a spirit of reconciliation, acknowledging elders past and present. Can I acknowledge Your Excellency, Mr. President? Thank you for gracing us with your presence this evening. We are very, very disappointed that you have become unwell, but we wish you a very speedy recovery and a good night's rest here in Australia. As the President and I have walked up, I have remarked, and if all members of his delegation could note this, that he should be saved from any paperwork during the course of this evening. I know what it's like to be chased around with paperwork when you're feeling unwell, and I'm sure it's going to aid his recovery if he's left undisturbed tonight, which is my way of acknowledging our other honoured Filipino guests. Can I also acknowledge members of Canberra's Diplomatic Corps, my ministerial colleagues, Stephen Smith, the Minister for Defence, Martin Ferguson, the Minister for Resources and Energy, Dr Craig Emerson, the Minister for Trade and Competitiveness, my Parliamentary Secretary for Sustainability and Urban Water, Senator Don Farrell, and his wife, Nympha. I'm glad you're here, and I know it's a special occasion for both of you. My parliamentary colleague, Ed Husick, who is representing the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senator Mackenzie, representing the President of the Senate. Senator Mackenzie is clearly a persuasive person because she managed to persuade Ed that the Senate book should be signed first in an unusual event, so well done to Senator Mackenzie. Michelle Rowland MP, the Secretary of the Australian-Philippines Parliamentary Group, and Senator Brandis, who is the Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Senate. Leaders of the Australian Defence Force, leaders of the Australian Public Service, leaders in our business and academic community, friends one and all, and in particular, many leading members of Australia's Filipino community who have travelled here today. You do so much for the friendship between our countries, and I'm very glad that you've made the effort to be here. Your Excellency, Mr. President, on behalf of the Australian people, I welcome you not only to our Parliament, but also to our national capital and our country. Your Excellency, I know this is your first visit here, but you and I already feel like old friends, having participated in many regional forums together, so it is really good to see you again. Our people have long been friends. Our peoples have fought together for freedom in the past. Australians fought and died alongside Filipino and US personnel in the campaign for the liberation of the Philippines during World War II. Some 4,000 Australian military personnel participated in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in 1944, the largest naval battle in history. Australians have admired your people's struggles for freedom in more recent decades. Australians watched the events of February 1986 in awe and admiration. My predecessor, Australia's then Prime Minister Bob Hawke, was one of the first foreign leaders to visit Manila following those days. He still speaks with deep respect of your mother, recalling their meeting and your family's generations of patriotic service. And today, the Australian government and Australian people greatly admire your efforts and the efforts of your government and people to bring prosperity and peace to the Philippines. At a time of significant global economic uncertainty, yours is the second fastest growing ASEAN economy, and that's something to be very proud of. The reforms in train, including in important industrial sectors like tourism and mining, will ensure that your economic growth is sustained over time and the benefits are felt by the great mass of your nation's people. And these same reforms will create new opportunities to expand the bilateral commercial ties between the Philippines and Australia, opportunities for trade and investment to lift living standards and create jobs. We applaud your leadership, Mr. President, in seeking to bring peace and stability to Mindanao. I reinforce the comments made by Foreign Minister Carr earlier this month. We congratulate you on reaching a framework peace agreement with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. We share your hope that a peace agreement will end this decades-long conflict, and we will work with you and the people of Mindanao to ensure the benefits of peace are felt as real progress for all. Mindanao is where around half of Australia's development assistance to the Philippines is delivered. The work we are doing together, particularly in education, training teachers, building classrooms, developing curriculum for Islamic and Indigenous children, training out-of-school youth to give them an alternative to conflict, supporting social protection programs for the poorest families, is vital to this end. We share a determination to ensure that the dividend of peace is true human progress. We share a determination to work for economic growth in our region, underpinned by security and peace. We cooperate closely in regional forums, including on the East Asia Summit, and we consult on important security issues affecting the region, such as the South China Sea. Your Excellency, our two nations are partners and friends in a century of growth and opportunity in our region, in what I term the Asian century. It is a century of opportunity for nations like ours, democratic and resilient, adaptable and hard-working peoples who look outward to the world with a confident and resolute face. Your first visit to Australia has been much anticipated. I know that the thousands of Filipino students here and the growing community of Australians living and working in the Philippines wish you well on your visit. The 225,000 Filipino Australians who live and work in Australia have looked forward to your visit very much, and it may feel to you like you've met them all this week. I'm very glad, Mr. President, we've got the opportunity to host you for your first visit here. Your Australian friends sincerely hope that it will not be your last. Thank you.
Could I now introduce of the Republic of the Philippines?
Honourable Julie Gillard, Prime Minister of Australia, Senator Honourable George Brandes, His Excellency Bill Tweedle, Very Excellent Ambassador of Australia to the Philippines, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ministers, members and senators, members of the Philippine Cabinet accompanying our delegation, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. After hearing both speeches, I had wished I had been in more perfect health. The speech that was prepared for this evening seems so wholly inadequate. Unfortunately, this is a question of the spirit wanting and the body not cooperating at this point in time. May I please start out with, and there were discussions about the martial law period, and then it's a people power revolution. When martial law was made known to the people, it was signed into law September 21, 1972, but it was a hidden law, only made known by the time they started arresting members of the opposition, members of media, members of the studentry, and others. So in the early morning hours of September 22, or 23, if I'm not mistaken, we were awakened and we were told that our father had been arrested. And our world had turned upside down. 73 would have marked the presidential election. My father was supposed to have been one of the potential standard bearers of the party that I belonged to, the Liberal Party. But such was not to be the case. And what do we mean when we say the world turned upside down? Friends who swore undying loyalty could not be found. There were people who would cross the street lest they be seen associating with us. And in that very dark period, even members of our household staff were not spared. I do remember one junior member of our household staff who was incarcerated, who was beaten up, who came back to us with just three of his teeth remaining. And he was being forced to turn witness against my father and bear false witness against my father. And that is the context wherein we remember all of our friends. We had managed to spirit him out of the Philippines through the help of Australian friends. We had American friends, we had other friends, but somehow, regardless of what history, politics, and fate had before us, somehow there was this constancy of our friends from Australia. So I do have a very personal, relationship with the people of Australia, perhaps by indirect links with my parents, but more importantly, even throughout the period of martial law, they were never afraid to be associated with us. And we thank them, especially at the point in time when my mother, after the EDSA revolution, was at the head of our democracy. It was a revolution subject to a counter-revolution, and the presence of your officials then and other officials really gave us the solidity so that we could move on to recover fully our democracy. The relationship, as been said, of our two countries is one founded on a shared history of sacrifices in defense of democratic principles. As allies in the Second World War, you gave refuge to our government, and your brave troops fought in the liberation of the Philippines. In the post-war years, your country has also become the second home for over 200,000 of my countrymen. Australia has been a true friend of Philippine democracy and a steadfast partner in the quest for a just and lasting peace. This firm foundation for friendship between our two countries finds a tangible expression in the milestones we commemorate this year. From our Senate's ratification of our security and defense agreements to the development, cooperation, and people-to-people exchanges that are strengthening our mutual understanding and solidarity. We have indeed deepened the engagement between our countries. I am proud to stand here and say that today, after 66 years of bilateral relations characterized by mutual respect, openness, and a willingness to come to each other's aid, Australia and the Philippines continue on our journey as even deeper partners, spurred by our common desire to uplift the lives of the Australian and the Filipino peoples. I have no doubt that our relationship will endure and become even more meaningful in years to come. We look forward to expanding the avenues for cooperation with Australia in order to secure peace, stability, and prosperity for all. And may I leave you with just this thought, or two thoughts rather. It is indeed true that I brought the senior members, or several senior members of my cabinet. In our system, they are also referred to as my alter egos. In effect, they can speak for me, and even in my absence, I'm sure any questions, any thoughts, any suggestions will be properly attended to. And as a last thought, we really live in, as the Chinese would put it, very interesting times. And unfortunately, sometimes it's too interesting. But in this journey fraught with a lot of tension, it is really good to know that the journey we will undertake is not alone, but with steadfast friends like the Australian peoples and their government. Thank you. Good evening.